Hello, hello. So today's lesson is over dividing fractions using the reciprocal. Now, reciprocal is a super fancy vocab word, and I'll get to it in a minute. But that is just a fancy way to say this method, which is keep, change, flip. KCF. KCF is how we divide fractions. There is another way, which there will be another video lesson over, and it's using models. So my visual learners, you will rock out some models. But KCF is also known as kind of like the standard algorithm. It is a just normal math, multiplication, division. We got it. Let's rock it. So we've got several steps that we're going to go through, and then we will work through an example. First step, the K. That's where it comes from. So we're going to keep the first fraction the same. We're not going to do anything to it. So like here, we wouldn't change it. Second step, the C, we're going to change the division sign to a multiplication sign. So this turns into multiplication. And then our third, the F, we are going to flip the second fraction, also called, there's that fancy vocab word, reciprocal. Reciprocal means opposite. So when we're talking about fractions, the opposite or the reciprocal would mean to flip it, literally flip it upside down. And then our fourth step is to cross simplify. I will explain how to cross simplify. Some people don't like it. It's just a way to where when you, after you multiply, which we'll get to in a second, it's a lot less simplifying at the end. But if you don't feel comfortable cross simplifying, you can skip this step, and then we go to step 5, which is multiplying straight across the numerators and denominators. Because remember, we changed our division sign to a multiplication sign, so that's why we're multiplying. And then 6, if you did not cross simplify, this is when you simplify that fraction, because remember, we want everything simplified. Okay, so let's jump into it. Let's do our first example. So I'm going to rewrite it just because I like to be super organized, and I like to write my fractions like this. So we've got 2/5 divided by 3/4. Now remember, we're using K, C, F. Keep, change, flip. I'm going to draw a little arrow. Okay, first step. We're going to keep this fraction the same. So just rewrite it. Don't do anything to it. Our C, we're going to change the division sign to a multiplication sign. And then our F, we're going to flip this fraction, or we're going to take the reciprocal of this fraction, which would change it to 4/3. We've done our KCF. We cannot cross simplify in this example, so let's multiply. Step 5. Multiply straight across, just like you normally would when you're multiplying fractions. So 2 times 4 is 8. 5 times 3 is 15. Check to see if you could simplify, and in this case you cannot. So this is our final answer. Look how easy that was. So super easy. So now let's jump to our second example. We're going to do K, C, F. And then, like I said a second ago, I like to rewrite my fractions. So let's KCF it. We're going to keep 5/6. We're going to change division to multiplication. And we're going to flip or take the reciprocal of 2/3, which makes it 3/2. Now, I'm going to show you how to cross simplify. It's very similar. You're using the same technique and the same method that you would if we were solving for GCF or LCM. We're going to be looking for those common factors that we could take out. So Cross simplifying means we're going to look at numbers that are across from each other. Think about an x across diagonal. So 5 and 2. There is not a factor that goes into both 5 or 2 evenly, so we leave them alone. We don't do anything with it. We cannot simplify them. But if we look at 6 and 3, 6 and 3 do have a factor in common, and that factor is 3. So you do just like you would for GCF or LCM, just without the ladder. You're going to divide both of them by that common factor, which is 3. 3 times 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So now you have a new numerator over here and a new denominator over here. So when you get ready to multiply, you use those new numerators and denominators. So 5 times 1 is 5, and 2 times 2 is 4. This is as simple as it could get. However, this is an improper fraction, which means the number on top, our numerator, is bigger than our denominator. So we have to simplify. So 4 goes into 5 one time, so that becomes our whole number. And then after we take 4 out, we're left with only 1, and then you keep your same denominator. And this is my final answer in simplest form. So that's if you use cross simplifying. But if you don't like cross simplifying, I'll show you the other way that you can do it. So I'm going to rewrite the problem after we KCF. So I'm going to write it down here. 5 over 6 times 3 over 2. This is after we keep, change, flip. If you don't like cross simplifying, which is totally fine if you don't, then you just multiply straight across. 5 times 3 is 15. 6 times 2 is 12. And then you have to simplify. I like to simplify by using GCF. So I'm going to set up a ladder and put those in my ladder. 15 and 12. Here's my ladder. Find a common factor that goes into both of them. In this case, 3 is a common factor. 15 divided by 3 is 5. 12 divided by 3 is 4. And we can't go any farther. Now, when we simplify fractions using GCF, your bottom row actually becomes your fraction. So when we simplify it, it becomes 5 over 4, which is exactly what happened up here when we cross-simplified. So now you can see that you're going to get the same answer. There's just 2 different ways to get there when you're simplifying. Same thing, you see how many times your denominator can go into your numerator. In this case, it's only 1, and then you're left with 1/4. If you don't feel comfortable using cross-simplifying, that's totally fine. It's not for everybody. I highly suggest you use GCF to simplify if you don't choose to, but I want you to use whichever method makes you the most comfortable and makes the most sense to you.